Okay, so welcome everybody to this week's call with Dr. Joseph Ahrens, and my name's Jackie Boyle, and I always have the esteemed pleasure of having this call to be able to host it for Dr. Ahrens. And he's an esteemed, he doesn't like me to pump his tires up too much, as we say in Australia, but I really do believe that people need to understand the credibility of this man. So dual nominated Nobel Prize scientist and a creator of many formulas that have helped many people globally throughout the world for years. He's got a resume that most people would only dream of, and we are very fortunate to be able to tap into his knowledge and his wealth of knowledge over the years for us each and every week when he's available. So we are very grateful. So thank you. And how are you, Dr. Ahrens, today?
Well, I'm doing great. I'm a week into this new office here. I still haven't got the light figured out yet, so bear with me. I'm kind of shaded on this side, but I'm ready to go. I don't think my brain's shaded. We can get with it.
Okay. So this week's call, I just want to touch base. Yesterday we did have a call in another group, and we talked about what the BSCG is. So, and the banned substance control seal is a seal that Valentis have taken the time to go through the regime of getting this product certified. And what does that actually mean? So, having a product, and I mentioned it slightly before we started recording, is that when you start looking at products out in the commercial space, when we're looking at sport, professional sport this day can be from children because they're already being watched. They're being watched upon what their performance is, that they can end up in an institute of sport, or they can end up being ear tagged and given a contract into college, whatever it may be. It starts at an early age. So, and even in the workplace itself. So when we start having people that are working and they start working at 13, 14, 15, being tested for illicit substances is a regular occurrence. So having a product that we know that we're able to safely provide and give to somebody that has gone through a regime like this, and I will say it is 496 plus illicit substances have been injected into EMULIN. It's been tested. They have to withdraw every single ounce of those that have been put into that product. The product is retested again, and it has to come back to its original form to show that it's not a masking agent for illicit substances. It's passed. So this is where it's very powerful for sport and also for the workplace and life in general. So Dr. Ahrens, I want to hand it over to you and please share your thoughts on this as to what it means to you with your product, having such a certification attached to this product now with EMULIN M.
Well, thank you very much. It's normal for you having me here. I appreciate all you do, Jackie, to keep this thing running, because we're here to give information, yes, about EMULIN, but health in general. So I thank you for your efforts. You know, the BSCG, that's Banned Substances Control Group. That's a mouthful, but why in the world is anything like this needed to begin with? Well, because every country is different. You know, the US, we sell products into the US, North America, Europe, Africa, Philippines, Southeast Asia, Australia, New Zealand. Every country has their own standards. And, you know, a lot of times it's just because countries want to say, you know, we're in charge of our own destiny. And actually, Australia is one of the most difficult countries to get registered in. Unlike the United States, if you have a supplement such as EMULIN or any vitamin or that type of compound, you must register with the TGA. That's the Therapeutic Goods Administration. And you have to show your formula, you have to prove it's safe, you have to give some evidence of its efficacy, and then they look and see, well, is this safe or not? And they do issue a listing number or not. And that's a very big hurdle to get over because a lot of products do not make it. And we're proud to say that EMULIN M and C has a TGA listing. It's called a TGA listing. In the US, nothing like this exists. They do it backwards. So you can put anything on the market and they only complain unless somebody has a health issue or dies from the product. So I do actually appreciate the way Australia goes about it. Canada is somewhere between the US and Australia. They are much more tight than the US, but they're not as rigid as Australia. And so you've got across the world, you've got people that are looking at the registration or listing of the product. But what does that actually mean from one country to another, especially as we're talking tonight about sports, and also you'll see to everyone, not just sports people. What does it mean? Just because there is a TGA listing in Australia, what does that have to do with its effect on the sports people? Well, actually nothing. And so there was a group of people that got together and said, you know, there needs to be an international standard, just like very similar to the Olympic banned substances standard, but we need to go further. We shouldn't just say, okay, does something contain a banned substance or not, but is it a masking agent? So that's two different things. You know, what about, you could have something that is a testosterone booster that is banned, but you could also have an ingredient that could mask that, so you couldn't tell there was testosterone in it. So this group came up with that twofold concept. We're going to determine if it's a banned substance, and there's a list of many of those, not just the 497, but longer than that. And then we're also going to come up and find out if it masks any of these banned substances. That's a pretty stringent test, because actually I've been involved in some of these things through some governments. I'm not going to name the government because I don't want to get on their bad side, but they actually told us that our product was masking a drug that I knew was completely impossible. And as I looked into their protocol, they were so messed up that water itself, deionized pure water, was masking some drugs, and it's completely impossible. I said, well, how is this possible? Well, they didn't know. They just said, well, you know, that you didn't pass our tests. And I'm glad that an agency came about along, like the Banned Substances Control Group, and said, we need to have an international standard. So somebody in Ethiopia or US, Australia, China, they don't have some strange protocols that you have to jump through, and they're real. So they got together a bunch of experts, and people came from the International Olympic community. That they're experts, and experts around the globe, and said, okay, what do we need to do here? And they put together a protocol, which means just a way to do things, that they would test any product I get to see, first of all, are there any banned substance in that product? That's fairly straightforward. You run it through an HPLC. This is the equipment that can detect different chemicals, and if it shows up, okay, you failed. But this is really interesting. There's other chemicals that can shadow or mask an illicit drug. It kind of goes along in the process on top of it, and you can't see it, and so it'll say, oh yeah, you're fine, but you've just masked it. You snuck in under the door. So there are, as you said, 497 banned substances. So what they do is they take a product like EMULIN and they mix it up in a test tube, and they put every one of these 497 banned chemicals in there, and then they run it through this system. And every one of those 497 molecules, chemicals must show up on the test. So it's proved that you haven't masked it, and you can't miss one of them, even by accident. You can't miss one of them. And then they have gone to each country and said, okay, this is our protocol. These are your own experts that came up with this protocol. And then each country has to accept that or not. Now, not all countries on the entire world have accepted it yet, only because there just hasn't been enough time. No one has rejected it, just not enough time for them to look at the protocol. But so far, 100% of countries that this system has been presented to have said, yes, we appreciate that, because now it takes away all of the questions that we had. And the International Olympic Committee is also accepting this. So we think that every single country in the world, except maybe Putin or whoever wants to have their own system, will accept these credentials. And so far, all of them have. So that is a very rigorous test, much more than just looking at one or two chemicals. Do you cover up testosterone, estrogen, or what? No, this is like 497 of them. And when we put that thing in there, we're just crossing our fingers, because we'd never tested ourselves every single one of them. It came out really smooth, very smooth. Now, I must say, we owe this to Valentis. They did it because they saw EMULIN M as the product for the sports industry. And that's where we're going first with it. But it also, EMULIN C will also pass, and they'll probably do EMULIN C next year. And then furthermore, probably 24/7, all of the ones that I'm concerned with, they'll eventually get around to that. Right now it's EMULIN M, because we're pushing EMULIN M for sports injury recovery and to help you with endurance. Although you cannot say EMULIN helps you with endurance, that's a no-no. But it supports all of these systems, your regain of energy, the wound recovery, oxygen depletion recovery. We're pushing this for EMULIN M, and then we'll also include EMULIN C. So, okay, that's sports. Great. Olympics. That's wonderful. What has that got to do with the common person? Well, as you just said, Jackie, at least in the US, I know very well, drug tests happen routinely every single week. My own son-in-law is routinely tested. He doesn't know when, 24 hours a day. He's going to be tested for these banned substances. Now, they're not there for sports activity, but they're there for other things, like cocaine and stuff. And so he can take EMULIN and know that he's not in any problem with EMULIN being considered a masking agent or coming across looking like it looks like cocaine or something, because he's in a very responsible position. So they randomly test all their management. He doesn't know when it's going to happen. And he actually asked me, well, if I take this stuff, what if it comes out being a masking agent? Because you can actually buy masking agents. Do you guys know that? If you have a company that does not allow you to smoke marijuana, you can actually buy a masking agent and take it, and it will theoretically cover up the fact that you have taken marijuana. Well, of course, in most places, that's also illegal. So he's saying, okay, how do I know this? Have you checked this out? I said, yes, I have. This EMULIN M has passed this group that's doing exactly what you're talking about. So he's a guy, he's not even in sports, but he's worried about he wants to take EMULIN, but he's worried about his job. What if it's a masking? I said, no, don't worry. Okay, what about the children, adolescents, in college? I talked last night about the University of Florida. If anybody knows me, don't come around when the University of Florida is playing on the television. And I throw things, I turn over the couches, and smashed the television, gone through 3 televisions this year. That's just how I am. And okay, the University of Florida, for those people who don't know, are always in competition for the national championship. It's always stupid Alabama and Clemson, Georgia. And Georgia, is our mortal enemy. We're always trying to be there. And used to be in the old days, every 3 or 4 years, we were the national champions. Well, we've fallen on hard luck, but we came across this quarterback, the head guy. Wow, it was going to be great. And somebody said, why don't you take this supplement? It's not on the banned list. He looked up the list, man. It was not a banned substance. And so his friend said, yeah, we take this. It was not an illicit drug. It was this herb. And he took it. It was on the masking agent list, and they found him taking it. And they kicked him out of school. And we just went from like number 3 to minus 35. And just because of a silly mistake. And now I can tell you that anyone taking the EMULIN M, they don't have to worry about any of that stuff. They can take it. I could give it to that quarterback, and I could say, look, it's got a BSCG certification, and the U.S. absolutely recognizes it. So there's no way he could have gotten in trouble. It actually did not enhance him. It was just, he was doing it for some, rebound thing. It wasn't like testosterone loaded, but it was on that list. And he went down the tubes, and it was terrible. So we're still trying to recover from that. And that is also then going to the high school, what we call here in the U.S. the high school, the secondary school. That leads into the university system. Parents are concerned about this. They don't. Not only do they are afraid about the legality, they don't want to be putting crap in their kid. Come on. Just to make him, get another touchdown. They don't want that. And they're concerned about their child's health. They are staying away from steroids, thankfully, but they're wanting, well, what is this stuff? What is EMULIN? And I can say, look, you can take it. I always say it's from cradle to grave, but I can also say, look, it is completely safe. You don't have to believe me. It's approved and certified by the Banned Substances Control Group. So everyone can now take it. Not afraid that it's 2 things. It's not an enhancing drug, and it's also will not mask another drug. So you'll do not have to worry about any issues. So I think this is just a home run. I'm really thankful that Valentis decided to do this, because if you followed them, they're getting ready to do a big push into the sports industry. And that was really critical for them to be able to say that. They can't, because it's the first thing people will say, well, is it on the ban list? Well, here it is. It is not only is it not on the ban list, but it's certified to be safe, not on the banned substances, and it's not a masking agent. Well, Jackie, what do you think about that?
Well, Dr. Ahrens, I'm really excited about it because, as you mentioned, in Australia, like we have TGA, so EMULIN M and C has a TGA listing. And for us to actually have the equivalent of, we then have to, for people to understand the importance of this BSCG global seal or certification, I should say, is that we go through another process here, and we did do this with EMULIN M and C for Australia, which is called HASTA batch testing. And it is exactly the same process, but it's for Australia only. So it gets tested and it goes through the same regime, but it doesn't go through as many substances. It's 250 plus illicit substances that are injected in. But it has to be done on every single batch. So each time that there's a new run that goes through. So if we look at that, yes, that's great and it's wonderful. So if the product's been made, tested here, they can go and check. So as far as what I'd like to add to it, Dr. Ahrens, so that people really understand their responsibility, because somebody's asked a question in here, how to share it with a sporting club. Being involved with sport, like with David and even with the fitness center myself, and having a lot of different professional athletes of all ages that were in the Institute of Sport, and this started from as young as 10. So I would be training young kids at the age of 10 that were going to the Australian Institute of Sport. They'd be living at home, but they'd be going down there to compete. So it was important that they knew. I wish we had this back then, but we didn't. But, you know, what was the big thing was to understand that as far as our responsibility with EMULIN M and having anybody in the professional sporting world or kids that are running around in soccer and they may have I'm going to call them an A-lister protege of a child that's got extraordinary talents and you know, they stand out generally. Or if you're in the workplace, to know that you've got something that potentially they will pull you out and test you at 8 o'clock in the morning. Like we've had players, we've had people here that are in sport, in the sporting industry. They do not get any warning to say that they're going to be tested. It could be 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning and they get tested. Pull them out of bed. You've got to go and urinate in front of somebody, get tested. And this is where this becomes so important for people to understand that the power of what you have with what Valentis have done with Dr. Ahrens' product, with EMULIN M, having this banned substance control seal really gives it a certification, gives you peace of mind to know that you can share it, knowing that it has gone through this regime that Dr. Ahrens has explained. Now, how do you go and share that with somebody? Even if you were the coach, and my husband alluded on this yesterday on the call, they have to go through and they have to provide all of the paperwork. It is their due diligence to ensure that they can provide to a professional team, these are the substances we want you to take, or the supplements, I should say, but it's still up to the athlete themselves. So for us, general public, we want to go and share it with a soccer club or with a football club or a baseball club, ice hockey, whatever it may be. What do? Well, give them the link. Give them the link, first of all, to Dr. Ahrens' webpage, because it will explain exactly what the product is and why they need it. Give them the link to BSCG, because it will explain to them and show them very clearly that Valentis is listed with EMULIN M on that site. You can see that, and it explains the process for how beneficial it is, and it shows that it's cleared that process. So give them those two links and let them go and do their due diligence. Tell them, I promise you it will work. When you're looking at recovery, you're looking at being able to support your recovery, support your immune system. Here are the links for you to go and do your own research, because as a professional athlete, if you're trying to share it into the sporting world or even in the workplace world, you've got to get them to go and do their own research, but just assure them, you know, because you've been on this product, you've been on these calls, share these calls with people. That's how I would approach it, Dr. Ahrens. And I know through David, with what he does in that space of professional sport, that's the protocol that they have to follow. It's a very strict protocol. And I think the workplace is the same. I mentioned yesterday with my son, he actually got drug tested at work. He took Benadryl, which is like a cough mixture, wasn't aware that it had something in there that it shouldn't have, and it flagged as being positive. So he got sent home. So this is where this is so powerful. And it's such a big marketing tool for us to be able to go out there and know that it has this seal attached to it across the board. It's just phenomenal, and it's a natural product. It's a win-win, Dr. Ahrens, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, you know, it's a great standard, because how do you cut through all the nonsense and trash that's on the internet? You know, you can find a certification for anything. And, you know, even myself, Dr. Joseph Ahrens, I might be a doctor of goat science or something, who knows? But everyone's looking for that credibility, that hook, because they're okay, well, I got information, but what does this really mean? Well, here it is. BSCG, it is recognized by almost entirely in the world, and it will be completely recognized one day in all the world. It's just a matter of time. You can point to that, and you can see that EMULIN is on it, and actually the new labels on the product will carry that right on the label. And so it is if nothing else, it's a strong peace of mind.
And I believe so, Dr. Ahrens, and I want to thank you. I've answered the question that was in the chat line. So if anyone's got any questions, please ask. Otherwise, we'll get moving forward because I think you've really covered everything. We've gone into the technical side of things and just how beneficial that this certification is. So for those of you that have questions, please send them into Dr. Ahrens' email address. But otherwise, Dr. Ahrens, I want to thank you so much, not only for bringing a product to us, to the world, that is changing lives. As I said, I've been involved with your products for 6 years and they have changed. This is my personal thoughts. It's changed my life and I've seen it change many people's lives. So to be able to have this certification attached to this product, it's just a huge tick because it's not just sport, it's across the world. So I want to thank you. You've become a friend, but more importantly, you've become an amazing man that is just changing people's lives. And it's just, that is something that you don't like to have the accolades, but you deserve the accolades because you're an amazing human being. And the knowledge that you give to us each and every week is something that we all need to get out there and share, because let's be honest, everybody really does need EMULIN. It's going to change your life. We had this conversation and you asked me a specific question about, I think 3 months ago, you know, why do you think this product works? And my answer to you was, and I think you remember this conversation, I said, because it does. I believe that I know when I share this with people, besides my own personal experience, I guarantee you that this product will work. How long will it take? I can't tell you. What are the symptoms or the things that you're going to notice? I don't know. But what I will tell you is that I guarantee you, if you give this product the time that it needs to be able to unravel at a cellular level inside of your body, to give your body a chance to be able to reboot itself, take what it needs from this product, you are going to notice the difference. What is it? I don't know, but I guarantee you it's going to happen because I've seen it happen for 6 years in many different cases with many different symptoms. Try it. And so everybody needs EMULIN. So I just want to thank you, Dr. Ahrens, because you really are, you've given a gift to everybody in our world.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, I don't know if I'll go along with all of that stuff, but you know, I just woke up one day and God handed that formula right into my hand. So, yeah, thank you very much. You know, I really am here because I want everyone to have good health, number one, and cut through a lot of the misinformation that's out there. Number two, everyone needs EMULIN. It's like discovering a vitamin. It is like a vitamin. It would have been a vitamin in the 50s, but now they are no longer allowed to have new vitamins. So the FDA in the US said, hey, you can sell it as a supplement. And that's what we're doing. But it's a vitamin. It's like a vitamin. I have to be careful about every word I use because the FDA and the FTC are looking at every word we say. We do not cure any diseases. We do not ameliorate diseases or change any of that. We just support the body's natural functions. And when it is supported well, it can do amazing things. So that's what it's all about. You know, in the future, we're going to start talking about some new subjects now. We've talked about diet. We're going to look at our questions that have been submitted. We might do a Q&A next week, but we're going to move into exercise. And, you know, that's just important. That's one of the legs of the stool, right? Exercise. We're going to talk about the reality of that, and we're going to have a couple of guest lectures on there. So guys, come on and tune in.
Thanks, Dr. Ahrens. And I think mobility is a big one. So I'm excited about exercise because I know it's a part of the key in the revolving world of life that we live in. So I want to thank you so much, Dr. Ahrens, as I said, for all the information that you've provided to us today. And for those that have joined us today, thank you to each and every one of you. You really do matter to us, and we do appreciate that you do take the time out to join us each week. For those of you that watch this afterwards, thank you. And for those of you that are kind enough to share it, we also are very grateful. So we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you so much, Dr. Ahrens.
Bye-bye.